Here's something that will make your jaw drop. A man walks up to sell some of his belongings, and in casual conversation, he mentions he's going through bankruptcy. Normal enough, right? Happens every day. But then he keeps talking. And that's when the real bombshell drops. This guy, this person actively filing for bankruptcy, has over $500,000 sitting in a retirement account. $500,000. So how in the world is that even legal? And more importantly, could this be happening all around you right now without you even knowing it? Let's set the scene properly, because this story deserves the full picture. Someone was out shopping recently, probably just a normal errand, picking up some secondhand goods, maybe furniture or electronics, the kind of stuff people sell when they're tightening their budget. The seller strikes up a conversation. He's open about it. He's in bankruptcy. People sometimes overshare when they're stressed, and financial stress is one of the heaviest burdens a person can carry. So the buyer listens, and then the seller mentions, almost offhandedly, that he has more than $500,000 saved up in retirement accounts. The buyer walks away confused, maybe a little frustrated, and ends up asking the internet what so many of us want to know. Is this actually legal? Is bankruptcy really that common? And can someone genuinely hide behind the system while sitting on a mountain of savings? These are exactly the right questions to ask, and the answers are going to challenge just about everything you thought you knew about how bankruptcy works in America. Because the truth is, the system was not designed the way most people assume. It was not designed to punish people into homelessness. It was designed with very specific protections, and those protections can look to the outside world, a lot like loopholes. So first, let's talk about how common bankruptcy actually is. The short answer is very common. In a typical year in the United States, somewhere between 400,000 and 700,000 bankruptcy cases are filed. That number spiked dramatically during the 2008 financial crisis, and it fluctuates based on economic conditions, interest rates, and the availability of credit. What most people don't realize is that bankruptcy is not just for people who made terrible financial decisions. Medical debt is one of the leading causes of bankruptcy in this country. A single catastrophic illness, even with insurance, can produce bills that reach into the hundreds of thousands of dollars. Job loss, divorce, a business that failed despite a person's best efforts. These are the kinds of life events that push ordinary, hardworking people into the bankruptcy system. Now let's talk about the guy in our story, because his situation isn't as unusual as it sounds, and understanding why is the key to understanding the entire bankruptcy system. There are two main types of personal bankruptcy that most individuals file: Chapter 7 and Chapter 13. Chapter 7 is what most people think of when they hear the word bankruptcy. It's a liquidation process. A trustee reviews your assets. Certain non-exempt assets can be sold to pay creditors, and then the remaining eligible debts are discharged. Wiped out. Gone. Chapter 13 works differently. It's a repayment plan, typically 3 to 5 years, where you pay back some or all of your debts under court supervision. Now here's where things get interesting, and this is the part that surprised that buyer, and honestly surprises most people. Retirement accounts. Money held in a 401k, an IRA, a pension, are almost universally protected in bankruptcy. This protection exists at the federal level under a law called ERISA, and it also exists in most state laws. When Congress passed the Bankruptcy Abuse Prevention and Consumer Protection Act in 2005, they actually strengthened these protections. A traditional 401k has essentially unlimited protection in bankruptcy. A traditional or Roth IRA is protected up to over $1 million under federal exemptions, and some states offer even broader protection than that. Why? Why would lawmakers protect retirement savings when someone is filing bankruptcy? Because the entire philosophy behind that protection is that society has an interest in keeping elderly people off public assistance. The logic goes, if we allow bankruptcy courts to drain retirement accounts, then those people will have nothing in old age and will become a burden on social programs. The protection isn't a bug in the system. It is an intentional, deliberate feature. So now let's really dig into what likely happened with the man in our story, because this is where it gets genuinely complex. Is it possible to spend years, maybe even decades, maxing out retirement contributions while simultaneously running up debt and living beyond your means on credit? Absolutely yes. In fact, it's more common than people realize. Here's how it can work. Someone prioritizes their 401k contributions, especially if their employer offers a match, because from a pure math standpoint, an employer match is a guaranteed immediate return on investment. Meanwhile, their lifestyle, their expenses, maybe a business, maybe medical bills, maybe just the slow creep of credit card debt, none of that is going away. Interest compounds. Income doesn't always keep up, and over years a person can find themselves with a beautifully funded retirement account and a catastrophic amount of unsecured debt. When they file for bankruptcy, the retirement account is protected. The debts get discharged or restructured, and from the outside it looks outrageous. It looks like cheating. The person who bought something from that seller probably felt exactly that way, like something deeply unfair was happening right in front of them. But here's the nuance that changes the picture slightly. Filing bankruptcy is not painless even when you protect your retirement. Your credit score takes a devastating hit. We're talking dropping by 150 to 200 points in many cases, and a Chapter 7 bankruptcy stays on your credit report for 10 years. A Chapter 13 stays for 7. During that time, getting a mortgage is extremely difficult. Getting reasonable interest rates on any kind of credit is nearly impossible. Landlords run credit checks. Employers in certain industries run credit checks. The social and financial stigma of bankruptcy is real and lasting. So while the retirement account is protected, the person is not walking away without consequences. Was the man in that story lying? Probably not. Was he gaming the system? That depends entirely on your perspective and your values. Was what he was doing legal? Almost certainly yes. And that's the most important distinction to understand. Legality and morality are not always the same thing, and the bankruptcy system, as it currently exists, is full of examples where those two things diverge in ways that leave ordinary observers feeling deeply unsettled. There is also another possibility worth considering. Some people genuinely fall into financial hardship despite having done a lot of things right. Someone who diligently funded their retirement for 20 years could still lose their income, face a health crisis, or carry debt from a failed business. The retirement savings and the bankruptcy don't have to be part of a calculated scheme. They can simply be the result of two parallel financial tracks, one responsible, one that spiraled out of control, colliding at the worst possible time. So what can you take away from all of this? A few things that are genuinely worth knowing. First, bankruptcy is far more common than the stigma around it suggests. If it happens to you or someone you know, it is not automatically a sign of moral failure or financial recklessness. Second, retirement accounts are among the most protected assets in the entire American legal system. If you are in a difficult financial situation, your 401k or IRA may survive even the worst outcomes. That is worth knowing before you make any desperate decisions. Third, if you are ever in serious financial trouble, speak to a bankruptcy attorney before you do anything else. Many offer free consultations. The rules around exemptions vary by state, and the difference between filing in the right way and the wrong way can be enormous. Do not liquidate your retirement accounts to pay debts that might have been dischargeable in bankruptcy. That is one of the most painful mistakes people make, turning protected assets into unprotected ones. And finally, if this story taught you anything, let it be this. The financial system in America is layered with rules, protections, and exceptions that most people never learn about until they desperately need them. Understanding how these systems work is not just for lawyers and accountants. It is for anyone who earns money, owes money, or one day hopes to retire with something in the bank. If this has ever happened to you, if you've watched someone navigate the bankruptcy system and walked away feeling confused, angry, or just completely lost about how any of it works, you are not alone. Drop your questions in the comments below. We read every single one, and your question might become the next video. And if you want to keep learning about taxes, finances, and the rules that quietly shape your money and your future, subscribe right now. New videos drop every week, and the information in them could genuinely change what happens to your bank account for years to come.